Good stuff for you. Tonight we're doing paranormal news and paranormal true crime. So let's get into it. One second, gotta bring this up. Okay, this first comes to us from back in September, but it's new to me and I want to share it with you. It involves the police, and anytime, in my opinion, that like the police or fire department or some kind of authority is involved, it lends these stories a bit more credibility. Um, I think, anyway. So this is from September 12th. It says ghost sighting reported to police. A police department in Rhode Island received a rather strange report about a mysterious woman that some suspect may have been a ghost. Cops in the town of Coventry reportedly receiving the creepy call on the evening of Saturday, September 1st. According to Facebook posts from the police department, concerned citizens said they had spotted a woman wearing a white wedding dress mysteriously emerge out of the forest along a road. So, right there, for those that aren't familiar with this phenomenon, there is a ghostly phenomenon called the lady in white that has been reported over probably a couple hundred years now, off the side of roads, um, in busy streets forever. Um, and there's all sorts of theories about what they are and what causes it. I think the whole white thing um, isn't necessarily uh, connected, like some people think, to a wedding dress. Um, I think a lot of the time when ghosts appear to us, they're kind of monochromatic. They're There's only so many colors that you see with ghosts. Um, and I could go into my whole theory about that, but that's actually a topic for another show. Um, but I will say this: coming from my own personal experiences, it's much like. Hold on one second. Um, Sorry about that. It's much like being on one side of a hollowed out like waterfall, looking out. You can see shapes, you can see colors, but it's all distorted through that wall of water. I think ghosts a lot of the time are like that. Like you can see them, but some details may be lost because we're seeing them through the sheen of dimensions or uh, you know spirit world, whatever. Um, this one kind of pissed me off. Moving on to the next story. And this ties into what you would be familiar if you listened just a few shows ago about my rant about being careful about how we present ourselves at all times. This pissed me off. And I think the individual involved in this story should never be allowed to investigate anywhere. The headline says, a paranormal investigator arrested after firing a gun at a ghost. This is from August 29th of last year. A 25-year-old man from Mansfield, Connecticut, fired his handgun after allegedly seeing a ghostly entity. His name is Christian J. DeVoe and claims to be a paranormal investigator. DeVoe stated he doesn't want to be considered insane. He was open-minded enough to consider the possibility that something supernatural was nearby him. When police arrived on the scene, they asked DeVoe what he had seen. DeVoe was later charged with illegal discharge of a firearm, along with giving false statements to the police. Now, like I said, that pisses me off, because if he for a second thought that what he was seeing was a ghost, why would you fire a gun at it? Like, a gun's going to do anything to a ghost, first of all. That's just fucking stupid. Secondly, not to give him any credit, but it also pissed me off that the police just immediately dismissed the idea of it being a ghost. Now, this one, I kind of have to, I'll share it on Facebook, but I'm also going to share it on my website, ghosthunters.weebly.com, by the way. So if you're listening in through that, I will be sharing it in our chat. As soon as I get the link. Because you kind of have to see this one. Hold on. Come on. Sorry, Stu, the previous show is playing on the website for some reason. There we go. Now it's paused. Alright, so the headline says, roadside ghost boy captured by dash cam. This is also from August 24th of last year. Initially appearing as blob alongside of the road in the distance, those passing by that day couldn't believe what they had just witnessed. After doing a double take, people driving through the Philippines noticed something by the road. One of their names is Myrtle. After talking, they said it was a boy. When they played back the dash cam video footage, the boy resembled something more like a glowing ball of light seen in the video. To this day, they believe that they watched a lost, trapped spirit. The ghost, it seems, was trying to figure out what had happened to them. Perhaps even this boy was the victim of a hurricane storm known to frequent this area. So, I'm going to go ahead, copy this link, share it in my chat. If it'll let me. And it's not. Let's see. I'm not sure why it's not letting me do that. Alright, well, I guess I'll just have to share it on Facebook. Where's the thing? Sometimes I hate computers. There we go. And there we go. Alright. So it let me paste the picture link, but it didn't let me paste the website link. So there you have it. So you can at least, check out that picture. Um, anyways, so I'm looking at the photo and I kind of see what they're talking about. Um, but, and I've actually seen the video version of this footage on YouTube, and it is interesting, but I wouldn't say that I'm 100% convinced. Um, I'm going to try a different site because okay, that site's ridiculous. Never mind. Yeah, it is like I don't know if you've ever looked up paranormal news online, but some of them are, quite frankly, how shall I say this nicely, stupid. Not because of what they're reporting, but because of how the websites are set up. Just makes it like way too complicated. Um, this comes from, oh wait, wow. Yeah, this site, sorry, I'm trying to find a good site. Um, this one, it's like set up okay, but the last story was updated on in 2017. So, yeah, I'm not going to rely on that one. It's actually really hard to find good paranormal news sites now, because a lot of them are shutting down um, due to lack of interest and things of that nature. Let's try this one. Not that one either. God. See, this is what I'm talking about. It's so hard to just find a good site anymore that like is regularly updated. Let's try this. Here we go. Hopefully, this has been updated. It's a site called itsastrangeworld.com. Here's another Lady in White story. But yeah, all this stuff is from 2017. Okay, so like I wanted to get into like paranormal news and stuff, but it's like really hard to find like updated like stuff. Like 2017 was the last story they updated. I mean, are you kidding me? I know paranormal activity is going on everywhere, so I don't get it. Let's look at this story. Oh, here we go. This one was just posted on the 8th, of, which is today. Um, paranormal activity. Camera catches ghost hand lifting hearse handle. It's not quite the hand that rocks the cradle. However, there's no denying that some entity is responsible for moving the handle on a Victorian hearse. Steve Wesson had been hearing rumors of paranormal activity at Nottingham's Haunted Museum, so he decided to investigate. On January 3rd, the paranormal investigator set up a camera to hopefully catch a ghoul in the act. Trouble is, all his video caught is a handle on the old hearse being lifted up, but no one is seen on the tape. On the morning of January 4th, I went through the camera footage. I did not expect to see what I did, Wesson told Cater's news agency. Caught on camera, I saw the handle being pushed up in the air with great force, falling back down to its original place. It was very scary, but also amazing. Wesson acknowledged that the museum houses many items with spiritual oddities. He also said the ghost distorted the camera's settings. We were using 1080p night vision motion cameras, so it would not have been possible to have this level of pixelation on its own. Let's see. And I don't have the actual video, it doesn't look like. But I will once again post the link so you can check it out for yourself on Facebook as well as on the website. Go. And then there's a story. What's a video link? Right above it says barbershop owner sees and smells a ghost she believes is her mom. See if this video play. Well, it won't let me copy the video link, but you can play it on the site. It's a little video right below the story I just read. Huh. I'm actually watching the video. Interesting. And then it looks like there's just a bunch of random bullshit underneath that. So, get the back button, see what's up. promising. I'm on another site called unexplainedmysteries.com. This looks to be mostly like UFO related. But this one, the headline reads, Terrifying Unexplained Screams. This is from the 2nd of this month. When I was 23 years old, this is the writer talking. When I was 23 years old, I was looking to buy a home. The homes in my city were more expensive than the homes outside the city. Farther out you went, the cheaper the homes. Because I was on my own and making a meager salary, I decided to buy a home in the country, 55-minute drive from the city, where it was more affordable. It was a 3-bedroom, 2-story home with all the rooms on the upper floor. I moved in May, and things were fairly normal. The township where this home was in is very remote, and there are only about 300 or so residents in the township spread out over several kilometers. I think this must be in England, where this person is talking about. My closest neighbor was a few acres away, with the other side neighbor's house not even visible. The nighttime was pitch black with every star visible. The entire house would be black except for the moonlight. I began dating someone long distance, and after a few visits, we decided to go camping in August. I was at a it was at a conflicting time in my love life between two men, and I was at a choosing point of which path to take. It was not long after, so I gathered that this is a woman or a gay man telling the story. Uh, it was not long after I returned home by myself from camping that this experience occurred. It was a regular day, said goodnight, etc. I have 3 pets, a dog, a cat, and a house-trained pig. My pig would sleep on the main floor in the spare room uh, in his bed, and the dog and cat would come sleep upstairs in my room. I was very used to sleeping with both the dog and the cat. On the night, I was basically spooning my dog. We were both on the outside edge of the bed facing out. Went to sleep, drifted into a deep sleep. Then both of us were jolted awake by the most blood-curdling, loud, shrill, woman-like scream that I've ever heard, from what sounded like right outside my window on the 2nd floor, or right outside my front door, which would have been just below. I was instantly panicked and terrified. I covered my ears. It was so loud. I felt my dog jump awake at the same time I did, and he took off out of the bed and down the stairs and out the dog door, barking as he normally would. The cat ran somewhere. I could hear my pig awake on the main floor, too. There I was, petrified and trying frantically in my brain to figure out what this was, while at the same time wondering if I was even safe. Was this thing coming in the house to get me? Am I going to die? The scream was not just a scream. It was a long, loud, drawn-out scream that happened over and over and over, and was the same. The first 3 to 4 screams were more like a ghost or a woman and were the loudest. But then by the fifth to eighth scream, they sounded like they were getting a bit farther away, and the ending of the scream started to sound almost like an automated siren or alarm. By the 8th to 12th scream, still sounding exactly the same every time except for the ending of it and the distance. It was noticeably farther, and I began to wonder if it was something alien because it was so siren-y and metallic sounding at the end. My brain was just going off constantly analyzing, what is this? I knew there was no way it was an animal because each one was exactly the same and not different pitches were sporadic. And it appeared intentionally directed at the house and sounded too much like a mix of an entity or a siren to be an animal. I just couldn't figure out what else it could be or if I was in danger. Okay, so I'm going to pick this apart a little bit, just because um, I've got to play devil's advocate a little bit, just to be fair. Um, it doesn't actually say that this person that wrote the story even looked out the window. How does she know it wasn't actually a siren? You know what I mean? I don't know. I that's the kind of news I don't like, to be honest with you. Not because of anything the person did per se. It's just that I like my paranormal news. I like news in general to sound like it actually is being reported, um, not just testimony from the the person in the story that witnessed it. If that makes sense. Like I want my news to sound like it's being told to me by a reporter, not a witness. If that makes sense. Sorry, I had to grab a drink. Um, so yeah, like I don't know. I mean, on the one hand, I get it. It's kind of hard to put stories together. Um, I know I certainly do want to be able to do it, not with my day job. I want to be that plugged into um, the world to be able to put together, like a website reporting paranormal news every day. But I know that there are people out there that can, and I don't know, it's just kind of disappointing that there's not more out there, I guess, as far as that goes. There used to be. I remember when I first started doing this show, like you didn't even get to finish typing in paranormal news, like 50 freaking sites popped up, and some of them were really really good, but they're no longer here, you know. So, um, I mean, I'll still try and put together paranormal news from now on, but it won't be as common a topic, I guess, because it's getting too hard to find reliable sources, I guess you could say. Um, but I can tell you, I guess, what's new, I guess, in my paranormal life, I guess you could say. Um, so some awesome stuff is starting to happen. Um, I'll start with this. I'm probably not going to do it just because I know that chances are going to be that they're going to want me to focus on darker, more negative uh, things, which is not something I will ever do. Um, but I have now been contacted for the fourth time about doing a TV show. Um, so, I mean, just being contacted and being recognized enough that TV shows are contacting me is pretty cool, I think. But there you have it. However, having said that, God, hold on. Some kids are being stupid outside and it's making my dogs bark. So you probably hear my dogs barking in the background. Speaking of which, they've been acting kind of strange lately. Well, I know that my house is haunted, and they'll do that thing like uh, anybody that has ever had a dog in a house that they know to be haunted has probably witnessed this, where they're just barking at apparently nothing, or they start getting really playful with something that's not even there, that kind of thing. And they've been doing that, but they have been doing it outside of my house. I'm used to them doing it inside my house. I'm not used to them doing it outside the house, like in my yard. I'm not used to that. So, this is a little what's up for you. Um, anyways, like I was saying, uh, it's just nice to be recognized like that, I guess. Um, but I should probably follow up on this one because I don't know this for 100% and I don't want to put it out there and then it turns out to not be true. But I will tell you my suspicion just to share my suspicion with you. I think this producer that contacted me might actually be from Paranormal Lockdown. Um, which, if you don't know, Paranormal Lockdown, it's the new, well, it's not new now. They're like 2, 3 seasons in, but it's the show that's being done by Nick Groff, who you might recognize from uh, the earlier seasons of Ghost Adventures. He was the third investigator along with Zach Bagans and Aaron Goodwin. But I don't know that for a fact. That is just my suspicion. It's not based in fact, so don't take that as a news report because it's not. But if I find out that that is the case, um, I'll let you know. And I'll let you know what happens too. Because I look, here's the thing. I would actually love to be on TV, but I'm not going to sell out or otherwise uh, like change who I am to do a TV show. Like I'm not going to suddenly be all about the negative shit just to get ratings. That's just not who I am. And I'm not talking down to the people that have done that. I mean, thank God for ghost hunters and ghost adventurers and all that, because without them, the wider world at large would have no clue about it, and there wouldn't be all the attention that we've gotten over the past decade or so. Um, but they focus on the negative mostly to get ratings, and I don't think that's necessary. I think it would be far more interesting to have a conversation with a ghost, just a nice, prolonged conversation with a ghost on national TV, than to focus on the negative and provoke to call something out that's going to last all of 10 seconds. I mean, not to disqualify that kind of evidence. It's just not what I do. You know, I'm not looking to make enemies when I go to investigate. I think that's stupid because you don't know what you're dealing with yet. First of all, and to just jump to the conclusion that it's all negative or what have you, I I just think that's misleading, even on TV. I think there's a lot more entertaining ways of doing what we do that doesn't involve that. So that's my personal news. Also, there is a possibility. I'm trying to get a couple different guests on my shows. Um, some of which I've had on my show before. I would love to have Shaman Black Bear back on the show sometime. That would be great. Or my buddy Rob Henry, or my other buddy Jason Levo. Both of those guys would be fantastic to have on the show. They have another show which airs tomorrow night, I think at 8 o'clock, Living Paranormal. So just go to look up Living Paranormal online. And I think the site is actually livingparanormal.com or .net. I'm not sure which. Um, you can tune into that. I know I'm going to be tuning in tomorrow night because I've missed quite a bit of them, and I've actually missed checking out that show because it's good. Um, and they have a lot of cool guests on the show. They actually had one not too long ago, probably about a year or so ago now. Uh, they had the owner of Robert the Doll on the show, or Howard the Doll. Forget which. It's Robert the Doll or Howard the Doll. Either way, it's like the most haunted doll in the world, apparently. Um, and it was cool stuff. Um, and I'm trying to get on their show too because I have a bunch of new stuff that they don't know about that I haven't talked about even on my show yet. Things that I found out about my own abilities and my own history, um, and my family history that I did not know until somewhat recently. Uh, that I would love to share with them in our audience, but you know, so far no response on that. Which I understand because I know they're busy guys just like I am. So that's going on. Investigation wise, we don't really have anything on the horizon that is set in stone just yet, but I have some definite ideas. I want to do an investigation at Farnham Manor, which is a haunted location here in Ohio. If you've never been there, check it out. You Farnham Manor. It's here in Ohio. Very haunted place. Another place I'm going to be looking into is the Ohio Farm Museum, which I didn't know this, but there's a place down in Florida. I think it's called Ridley Village or something to that effect. Basically, they took these historic buildings from all over the country, I guess, and moved them to this one location, and that location is really haunted. Well, this place, the Ohio Farm Museum, I guess, did the same thing, except they moved buildings from within Ohio, historic buildings. So the place is reportedly haunted. I would love to go check that out. Um, but neither one of those are set in stone yet. I'm just spitballing at this point. Mainly, it's just hard to find time with, kind of working a full time. Well, it's not really quote unquote full time. It's full time for me, so full time gig. It's the animal rescue and stuff. So it is hard to find time for everything. Um, it's not just my schedule; it's everybody else's too. I'm looking forward to hearing from Sarah and Dave again. Hopefully, here in the near future. I know they are planning on starting Ghost Wolf Paranormal Australia, which will be awesome. Um, so there's that to look forward to. And I think that's about it as far as all that goes. Really not a whole lot else going on, I guess. But, I have a lot of irons in the fire, so to speak, that I'm not quite ready to talk about yet. But there is one more piece of news about Gustle Paranormal, about Howling After Dark, about Ghost Wolf Radio, that I think everybody is going to be ecstatic about. I don't know where it's going to be yet, and I don't know when. But this I can tell you. The next investigation we do, no matter where it is going to be doubly important for one reason. It is going to be the launch of a new show that is going to be both radio and YouTube web series. It is going to be the first episode of Ghost Wolf Live. That's right, Ghost Wolf Live during investigations at locations here in Ohio. You will be able to hear and see everything as it happens. So look to that new show, Ghost Wolf Live. You're not going to want to miss it. And keep tuning in my show because I'm going to let you know exactly when it's going to happen. But it's going to be soon. It's going to be within the next 2 or 3 months. Easily. So, yeah, there's that. All right, folks. Moving on with tonight's show, we are going to get into the nitty gritty. We're going to get into the cold-blooded. We're going to get into paranormal, true crime. And we're going to start with this. The second oldest unsolved murder in Pennsylvania. Gail and Paul Schultz. On March 7th, 1953, the bodies of teenagers Gail, 18, and Paul Schultz, 12, were found along the bank of the Black Rock Creek in Nazareth, Pennsylvania. They were bludgeoned to death by an unidentified weapon, possibly a hammer. There were no suspects in the case, and their murders remain unsolved more than 60 years later. So what exactly happened and why? And why were there never any real leads in the case? Gail Schultz graduated from Nazareth High School in 1952. She was known to be a homebody with whose talents lay in art, mostly watercolor paintings and portrait sketches. She also wrote poetry and played the ukulele. At this point in history, disabled individuals were usually not allowed to attend regular school. Gail spent her days teaching and taking care of her autistic half-brother, Paul. On March 7, 1953, she and her brother went for a walk along the Black Rock Creek behind her house, looking for rocks. There was snow on the ground outside, and it was very cold out. Around 4:30 p.m. that day, Paul's mother and Gail's stepmother, Claire, became worried that the two had been gone for so long, and called for her husband, Paul Schultz Sr., to go and look for them. He'd been in the basement workshop repairing TVs at the time. He found the two teenagers' bodies about 500 feet from the home, lying face down in roughly 10 inches of water. Claire watched him lift the bodies out of the creek, and the location of the murders was in the sight line of dozens of other homes. Originally, he thought they drowned. The visible gash on Gail's forehead was thought to be from hitting her head on a rock in the creek. Paul Sr. attempted to revive them, mouth-to-mouth resuscitation. His helper, Robert Howes, saw him pull the bodies out and called the family doctor and Nazareth Fire Company. The two were taken to the firehouse where more attempts were made to revive them. It was not until several hours later when Easton funeral director John C. Thomas was preparing the bodies for embalming when he noticed the head wounds. Their deaths were then immediately ruled a homicide. The county coroner would later on determine that the two died from blunt force trauma from some weapon, possibly a hammer. Gail had been struck in the head 7 times, and Paul 3. A compound fracture on Gail's right thumb indicated she had attempted to defend herself. State police were not alerted to the crime until 9:40 p.m. that night, when a reporter called them asking for answers. By then, the crime scene had been compromised. Captain Charles C. Cook did not arrive on scene until about 7 hours after the crime had taken place. By then, several more inches of snow had fallen. And curious and concerned neighbors had trampled over the crime scene, destroying any possible evidence. That's such a shame. I mean, because back then, too, like, you got to realize, it's not like it is now. Like because of TV shows like CSI and Forensic Files and stuff, a crime like this were to happen today, crime scene would not be trampled. Like, people would know. not not to trample the crime scene. At least you would hope that would be the case. But back then, there was no chance of that in this kind of situation. And these people were just trying to help. You know, it's not like they were trying to keep this from being solved. Anyways, continuing on. By then, several more inches of snow had fallen, and curious and concerned neighbors trampled over the crime scene, destroying any possible evidence. Ambulance and other rescue vehicle tracks had also destroyed any potential evidence. Gail's glasses were finally found 9 days later, about 40 feet from her body. A plastic-handed chisel was also found at the scene, but it was clean and could not have caused the headwinds. These were the only pieces of evidence police had. Even though the murder took place within sightline of dozens of homes, including Gail and Paul's, there were no witnesses. Police scoured several counties for possible suspects, bringing in 124 people who had previously been charged with sexual offenses, even though there was no sign of sexual assault at the scene. The strongest suspect the police had was a neighbor, Willis R. Keck, a 38-year-old single man who took care of his 73-year-old father. He was suspected because he was a bachelor and his alibi was that he had been home until 8:30 the night of the murders. Still, he was cleared of all charges. Let's see. Just lost my place. Still, he was cleared of all charges after an examination and lie detector test. The fact is, there were never any strong suspects in the case. No clear motive in the crime, no murder weapon, and no other evidence. Let's see. 1 second, folks. Here we go. That's better. No clear motive, no crime, no murder weapon, no other evidence. Captain Cook and Paul Schultz Sr. both died the following year, and Claire, their mother, died in 1970. Gail and Paul's cousin Barry Isle and his wife, as well as a memorial marker at Nazareth High School, are the only things keeping the memories of the murder alive. The murders of Gail and Paul Schultz are the state police's second oldest cold case at this point in time. It is likely they will never see justice. That's just sad. It is. It's sad, but here's the thing. I think this might actually tie into the whole Edward Wayne Edwards thing. It wouldn't surprise me. Let's put it that way. If that were the case, it would not surprise me at all. Accomack Inn. Located in York County, Pennsylvania, this historic inn is known for two things: its food and its resident ghosts. The most famous of these ghosts is thought to be the result of a 200-year-old murder that rocked the nation in its day. In 1882, Emily Myers was a servant girl who worked for the current owners of the Accomack Inn John Quayle Sr. had purchased the property in 1864. John Quayle Jr., his son, quickly became smitten with Myers. He frequently asked for her hand in marriage, to which she always rejected. On May 30th, 1882, Quayle Jr. decided to ask one last time. Myers was in the barn milking cows when she once again rejected the offer for marriage. Quayle Jr. was known for his lack of intelligence and quick temper, and in a fit of rage and frustration, he shot Myers about 50 feet north of the inn. He escaped into the woods, but was found 10 days later and charged with Myers' murder. He was arraigned on October 19, 1882, and eventually found guilty of murder in the first degree. He quickly appealed his verdict, and the second trial took place in Gettysburg. Due to the bigger venue, the trial room was packed. The second jury took only 3 hours to deliberate, and on March 5, 1883, Quayle Jr. was once again found guilty of murder in the first degree. The trial became sensationalized national news. The majority of people who followed the trial believed Quayle Jr. to be guilty, and there was little sympathy for the killer. Quayle Jr. was sentenced to death by hanging, and his mother had his body transported back to Accomack Inn. He is buried in a small marked grave about 50 feet south of the inn. Quayle Sr. was known to often sleep next to his son's grave. Quayle Jr. is thought to haunt the Accomack Inn property. His apparition has been spotted multiple times, and the inn has suffered other paranormal phenomena. Devices and electronics turn on and off. A phantom cat is often spotted, and the intercom is activated when no one is in the building. A woman believed to be the ghost of Emily Myers has been heard singing. An employee of the inn also met a woman who he later believed was Myers sitting and crying in the back room. He tried to help her, but she disappeared. She'd been wearing 1800s clothes, but no matter how hard he tried, the employee could not remember what her face looked like. Multiple EVPs have been caught in the Accomack Inn. Employees say they believe the ghosts are trying to tell them something important because they are very talkative, but they don't know what. So that is definitely a place I'm going to have to check out someday in Pennsylvania. So, no, sorry. Der Elitch Jäger, Elitcher Jäger, or Eternal Hunter. The legend was brought over by the German settlers in the 1700s. In one version, a hunter in Pine Grove, Pennsylvania, left to find food after a dry, fruitless harvest season, vowing to hunt for all eternity in order to provide for his community forever. It said that during the fall in Pennsylvania, one can hear phantom shotgun fire and hunting dogs barking. Another version unique to Lancaster County speaks of a man named Jacob Brisker who left and became this eternal hunter. It is said that only those born on Christmas night can see him, but all can hear him blow his horn and shoot his gun during hunting season. Versions of the eternal hunter myth occur in multiple countries. The myth may may have arisen from a pagan legend called the Wild Hunt. The legend involves one or several mythical huntsmen whose prey is guilty women, or the huntsmen are riding to warn of war and plague. The Wild Hunt figures stem from various nobleman figures, religious figures, or pagan gods. Various versions of the Wild Hunt exist depending on the myth it originated from. In Pennsylvania, the Eternal Hunter is unique in that he is not malicious or a harbinger. He is simply a spirit that appears during the harvest season. That's interesting. Okay. Here we go. Mary of Old Maid. The Kutztown University website reads, a friendly ghost named Mary cohabitates peacefully with 179 women who reside in the residence hall section of Old Main. Indeed, legends of the ghost of Mary had been circulated among university students since the early 1900s. It is said she inhabits the Old Main residence hall built in the 1860s. But just who is this Mary? The local legend student spread the scare of the freshmen states that Mary was a student in the 1800s who lived on Old Main's fifth floor. She became pregnant and out of fear of her parents hanged herself. Numerous paranormal phenomena have been reported by students for decades. Lights flicker, electronics begin to malfunction even while or begin to function while they're not plugged in. Objects float, water falls from nowhere, and cool spots are felt. There are also reports of a phantom dog barking. The apparition of a young girl has been spotted through windows in Old Main, and mysterious footsteps are often heard from the now closed-off fifth floor. Many students say they are used to the ghostly happenings of one of Kutztown University's oldest buildings, but others are still skeptical. Of course, the university itself acknowledges and often humors the legend for students. Unfortunately for gullible students, there are no records of any student, female or male, pregnant or not, hanging themselves on Old Main's fifth floor. However, like many legends, Mary's ghost may actually have come from the truth. There was a 22-year-old student named Mary S. Snyder from Limekiln, Pennsylvania, who attended Kutztown in 1895. She died in her Old Main dorm room of a pre-existing heart ailment the night before her graduation in July of that year. Although this true story may not be as fun or creepy as the legend cuts down the student spread, it is still very sad and may explain the ghostly occurrences of Old Main. Poor Mary never got to graduate and may to this day roam the halls of Old Main, pestering students studying for the finals. You know, I actually heard a story years ago that was a lot like that from USC, University of Southern California, which USC isn't as old as a college, but a lot of the buildings there have been around forever. A lot of the buildings that is used by the college actually existed during the late 1600s, 1700s mission era when California was a Spanish colony, and have been reported for generations, to be honest. And one such story is actually about a girl that was, in fact, murdered. Uh, She wasn't a student, however. She was just she was murdered on when it was mission grounds, I guess you could say. It was I don't even know how to find that story, but it's been around forever. Okay, this next story says Babes in the Wood. On November 24th, and I guess a lot of these stories, before I get back into this, a lot of these stories actually come from Pennsylvania because the person that writes it is actually from Pennsylvania, and therefore is most likely to hear about things from Pennsylvania. So, you know, uh, in case you're wondering why they're all in PA, that's why. Um, anyways, Babes in the Wood. On November 24th, 1934, the bodies of three young girls were found suffocated and wrapped in a blanket in the forest along Pennsylvania's Route 233, Centerville Road. The men who found the bodies, John Clark and Clark Jardine, as well as detectives, could not identify the children. A graphic photo of their dead bodies spread across the nation in a media frenzy, leading to many false identifications. Death masks were made of the girls before they were put to rest. The only clue was a children's book with the name Norma written inside, which was found near the bodies. Um, I'm going to back up here for a second, just in case there are those out there that don't know what the whole death mask is. Um, it was actually a common practice back then to make death masks. What essentially they were is like plaster of Paris that was laid over the face of the individual deceased person, um, that were often kept as mementos, but they also were used in solving crimes, much the way um, a forensic artist or forensic pathologist nowadays will use clay and tissue depth markers on an existing skull to actually sculpt a face. Kind of the same concept, just not as detailed. Um, so, anyways, uh, the next day, the dead bodies of Elmo Noakes and his niece Winifred Pierce were found in a train station in Altoona, Pennsylvania. Pierce had been shot through her exposed breast with a .22 rifle. Noakes was identified as the killer, and he had shot himself in the head minutes later with the same gun. After looking into Noakes' past, investigators were able to identify the three murdered girls as Noakes' daughters: Norma Sedgwick, 12, Duella Noakes, 10, and Cordelia Noakes, 8. It is believed that Noakes had suffocated the girls only a few days before killing his niece and himself. Multiple tragic events led to the events of November 1934. On July 28, 1923, Noakes married Mary Isabel Hayford, who is the mother of Norma from a previous marriage. The pair had two daughters, Duella and Cordelia Noakes. A fruit company employee and former Marine, had been struggling with finding work. On July 10, 1932, uh, Hayford died in Salt Lake City, Utah, from septicemia hemolytic following a self-induced abortion. 2 years later, it was believed Noakes and Pierce had began an affair, running off together with Noakes' daughters. This led to the family's eventual poverty and starvation. When the autopsies were done on Norma, Duella, and Cordelia, it was determined they had not eaten for 18 hours earlier that year. In September, Noakes had purchased life insurance policies on the girls and changed the beneficiary his life insurance to one of his three sisters, Winifred Pierce's mother. It is believed that Noakes killed his three daughters as an act of mercy to save them from starving to death After the murders, Pierce sold her coat for $2.55, money which was then used to purchase the gun used in her murder and Noakes' suicide. Some detectives on the case could not believe Noakes, who is said to love his daughters very much, he killed his own family. Theories range from the girls dying in a car accident and Noakes killing Pearson himself while experiencing great grief, to the murders being a cult or gang killing. However, the majority of investigators and the public believe Noakes to be the guilty party due to the events leading up to the killings. After the truth about the murders came to light, Noakes' two sisters were arrested for harassing Winifred Pierce's mother. They claimed she had spread lies about Elmo Noakes, driving him to the murders. They also claimed Winifred Pierce was a manipulative liar and that it was she who had convinced Noakes to commit the crime. Each of the two sisters were given a suspended 90-day sentence. The difficulty investigators had in identifying the bodies of Norma Dewell and Cordelia led to a law being discussed in 1935 that stated that all Pennsylvania children must be fingerprinted. A graphic photo of the Noakes sisters' bodies is on multiple websites. Why you would want to look that up, I don't know, but there you have it. Alright, I'm going to do one more, and then that's it for the night, folks. Amity Hall Hotel. Abandoned in the 1980s, this former hotel and historic structure has been the subject of local legend for decades. Originally an inn and restaurant in the 1800s, this Buchanan, Pennsylvania building has since been in a state of disrepair. It was the target of an arson in 2009, and the entire front of the structure burned to the ground. Some may say the spirits of this historic haunt burned with it. Not likely. Though no reports have been confirmed by a historical document, local legend lists a number of violent incidents as having taken place at the hotel. One legend states that a woman was beaten to death in the nearby woods. Another says a boiler explosion caused the deaths of multiple workers. Supposedly the hotel was also used as a Civil War hospital. Perhaps the most damning legend is that of a former Amity Hall Hotel guest who caught his wife cheating, slaughtering her lover, and his two children before hanging himself in the hotel's attic. Other reports say he died in a shootout with police. The murderer, his wife, and kids are believed to be the ghosts that currently haunt the Amity Hall property. The hotel's second floor is the setting for much of the paranormal activity. White and blue lights have been seen moving around upstairs. A woman has been spotted wandering through the attic window. Small dark creatures have been seen and felt running around the dilapidated parking lot and around the hotel property. That sounds a lot like gravelings, which, if you don't know what gravelings are, you have not been listening to me for long. Many believe they are imps, which I disagree. In addition to the fire, no trespassing signs and frequent police patrols keep investigators from observing any recent paranormal activity at the Amity Hall Hotel. Other than the name, this hotel holds no relationship to the Amityville Horror, which I would figure would go without saying, considering that it's in Pennsylvania, not upstate New York. Alright, folks, well, that is about it for tonight. I want to thank you all for tuning in. Tune in next time. Until then, my pack, my tribe, peace out.